Ad Chats with Frank Palmer, the marketing, media, and communications talk show with Stephen Brown and Steve Miller.
I have the pleasure of interviewing a very interesting couple of creative and business stars from the Toronto advertising agency called Fuse Curate. I will be chatting today with Stephen Brown, the CEO, and Steve Miller, who's the Executive Creative Director. Good morning to you both.
Good morning. Good to see you.
Good morning.
So thank you for agreeing to do this interview today, and a big thank you from nabs and myself for the very kind and generous donation that you've given to nabs. And as you know, nabs needs your support and the support of the industry even more than before. So I'd like to, before I start the interview, I'd like to give the audience a few interesting facts about both of you gentlemen. Stephen, I'm going to start with you first. Your resume says you spent nearly 30 years in integrated marketing and advertising, including digital, social media, CRM, database, and experimental marketing. Your education, including Brent University, where you got Bachelor of Arts, University of Toronto for continuing studies for database experience, as well as Ryerson and Humber for general marketing courses. And before starting Fuse Creative in 2003, you started as an account executive at a company called First Avenue as an account AE from 1992 to 94. And then from there, you went to Wonderman from November 94 to January 2000. And then you traveled over to Mosaic Marketing as VP Client Services from January 2000 to January 2003. And then as a founding partner in 2003 of Fuse Create and Fuse Health until now, nearly 20 years. Is that about correct so far?
Perfect.
Did I get it good?
Yep.
You were recently the board of the Canadian Marketing Association and likes to give back to the community, which is great to nabs. Having worked on a few models for social venture partner Toronto and fundraising for Convent House. He also served as chair for the CMA's National Convention and the chair of Fashion Cares, Canada's largest HIV/AIDS fundraiser, vice president of Worldwide Partners, independent network of agencies in 40 countries globally. And your experience in brand building, direct interactive, database, promotional, and experimental marketing. He's known and loves to create, strengthen, and grow client brands across a wide range of categories. Your commitment and passion for the business has been driving forces behind your marketing background and advertising career. Wide range of accounts that you worked on, including the CIBC, Mercedes-Benz, Canadian Tire Financial, GE Money, Cooperators Insurance, Toronto 2015 Pan Am Games, and Ontario Hydro, to name a few. What a career!
Wow, I feel like I should have gone first. You know, this is a tough act to follow here.
No, you're fine. I got a pretty good act here for you too. And prior to Fuse Creative, Stephen had a very interesting career. He's been a paper boy, ice cream scooper, actor, sales rep, MC, consultant, salesman, model maker, judge, etc., just to name a few. Plus, he's really the lead singer, guitarist, songwriter, and manager of a 7-piece rock band or folk band called the Rustic Gomers. I found this small picture of you. You want to show that picture?
Oh no. Yeah,
that's you.
That sure is. Unfortunately,
I found that on. I think I found that on your CD.
Yes, in fact, you may have found it there.
So you got to know that when I do these interviews, it takes me a little bit to find some of this research, right? So you're also a part-time teacher at the Miami Arts Ad School from 2018 till present. You teach 10 weeks a course on how to pitch and present. Are you still doing that?
Still doing that, yeah. Not currently, but I'm waiting the phone call.
Okay, but we'll talk about a little bit about that. You went to Humber College where you got a postgraduate certificate in media copywriting. You have a Bachelor of Commerce degree from Ryerson University. And from 1999 to 2000, you worked for Cassette, my nemesis agency, Vancouver. and account supervisor in their design division called Adenica. From there, you worked for BBDO Toronto from 2002 to 2005 as a copywriter. And where you worked at BBDO, you worked on RBC, Royal Bank, Pepsi, Frito-Lay, Bayer, M&M's, Bayer and Campbell's. And after BBDO, you went to work for One Method Agency from 2005 to 2019, where you helped that agency grow from a staff of 5 to 55. From there, you joined Fuse as VP partner, where you worked on CIBC, Air Miles, Old Dutch, Ricola, Foods, just to name a few. And both of you had a very interesting career to date. You've worked for some very, very good agencies in the past. And today's interview will cover some of that off. But as you know, we're very, very different working relationship today since COVID. Very different times. And I'm sure that you're both aware of all of that. And but before I start my interview, I knew a bit about your company, but I didn't really know as much as I probably should have. But after doing my research, I've got to tell you that you need to be out there even more so than you're doing because of the work you've done. You've done some fantastic work that I had to do some research on, so I congratulate you guys for doing great work. And you're one of the few independents out there that are remaining in Canada that are really doing great work. And I'm hopefully interviewing them all because the large holdcos aren't doing as well as they used to do in the past, and the independents seem to be doing much better. So Stephen, I'm going to start with you first, but please, both of you join in the conversations as we move along. So we got about 45 minutes today. It might take a little bit longer or less, depending on conversations. They've all run less than about an hour. And you talked about, I found that you talked about 3 of the biggest mistakes or learnings, and that you've influenced you over 19 years of operation as an independent agency. You said that they are not to hire ego and self agency maniacs versus shared vision leaders, overthinking technology at the expense of what agencies really need to do, ultimately be creative, and culture, and you can't get profit without it. And I agree. Are these the 3 learnings is important today because of COVID? Has it changed? And how has it affected your working environment? And how has that changed?
Yeah, well, thank you. I think right now, to answer the end of the question, first and foremost, I've never seen a time where culture's never been as important as it is right now. So the distance, the hybrid model that we're working sometimes in the office, often from home, to foster that sense of community, that sense of connection, that sense of creative collaboration is really critical. It's not easy. But we've done quite a bit to change, to manage that. So we've adjusted our office, we've adjusted our whole policies around how you work. And it is working. Steve, I'll let Steve weigh in on some of that. I just find the main thing is you can't take your eye off of, almost like you can't sit back and assume it's working. You really have to lean in and do more than you ever had to do before to say, come on in, let's get together, let's book meetings, let's go out to see clients again. Let's actually not force, but really sort of structure how you want to create a community within an agency. Right. And you used to kind of just be able to rely on everyone showing up to do it. Now you have to curate it. It involves a lot of food, and that's fine. But that's the whole. Steve and his team have done an amazing job of changing our product and our creative and really focusing the business. A lot of my job has been, how do we make sure that we come together and celebrate and connect? And that shared connectivity is what gets us better creative, better ideas, better strategies.
I think you're right on that comment about getting people in the culture and the business. I mean, for us now, we have 25 employees now, and at any one day, there's maybe 7 or 8 here. And now we're having to deal with some getting people back. Do you want to come back? Some don't want to come back. One want to come back 1 day a week. And we're trying to go through that, and we haven't figured it out yet. We don't want to force people into doing things that they don't want to do.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Steve.
No, I was just going to say that's exactly it. It's a balance of incenting people to come in, not trying to make it a mandate, but definitely trying to find ways to encourage people to come in. And I think, Stephen, your point about, curating that culture, because before it happened organically. We were all at work. We'd go out after work. We'd see each other in the kitchen or wherever we might be. But curating that culture now is important. And finding the authenticity there is also important. So it's not just forced fun.
Yeah. Have you, do you know what it looks like yet coming back to work? Have you experienced, I don't know, well, how many employees do you have now?
We have on the main agency, it's about 55. We're almost back to 60, and the health side's about 20. So it's a good sized group to try to manage.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I would say, the learning so far is it's a lot of trial and some errors, a lot of successes. But, I would say when you look at why would we all congregate in the old model, use that as sort of your triggers. So training is a really good opportunity, brainstorming and planning, social, and that's where food comes in. But for all the other stuff, like if you just have to get through your job, why not work from home? So it's really about, if you think about when did we all go to the town hall section of the office, or when did we all get together? Those were events. And so that's how we've been trying it. Some have been complete duds. Last night, we had at least 25 people here for some training, followed by a spring fling. Like, it worked beautifully. So
yeah, we had, I have an old hot dog story about how I won a piece of business by talking about hot dogs. So we had a hot dog day here.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I told them I was going to fire the agency principals because they didn't have hot dogs on a hot dog day. But it's all about hot dogs. We had everything but hot dogs. We had all that junk that people were going to eat. But we had almost 90% of our staff came in for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the vibe around the agency changes, And I think that one of the things that I'm having difficulty with, being an old guy and loving people around the office, is getting, I don't think that's my phone, but it was getting people around, just 1 second, I'm sorry.
Don't worry.
We can edit that out. Just gonna.
So it's probably people calling in with questions already.
Well, calling in with the new accounts, trying to get an account. No, it's the fact that it's kind of like being used to being in the office every day, and then trying to change from that. So trying to get change from what you're used to, which is a little bit different. I'm in the office every day, and I prefer to be here. Now, if I'm home, my wife usually get me doing things I don't want to do. So that's one reason of leaving. But I do like it around the office because, quite frankly, you can go to people and say, let's get together just for a quick minute. Whereas you got to get people for a quick minute on Zoom.
Yeah. Yeah, no, balancing those personal preferences is tough in terms of those who like staying at home, those who want to come to the office, and how do you do these hybrid meetings of some in the office and some on the Zoom, and so that's definitely a balance. But I also think culture, while much of it is built socially and through sort of connections and events, culture, so much of it is also just kind of almost the definition of the term around kind of shared beliefs and shared values, and these people kind of, the way that we work together is so much of our culture as well in terms of driving the work. And then the outside parties and social events certainly help too. So we make sure that as we hire people and as we are building our teams, that we do have these shared beliefs, shared values, as you noted earlier from Stephen, leaving egos at the door and things of that nature, because so much of that sets the foundation for the culture, which actually just makes the social events a little more fun.
You both talked about retooling your agency for today's agency world, the state of 2022. Is that kind of what you're kind of modeling now going forward?
Yeah. When we met Steve 3 years ago, just over 3 years ago, we knew we were always known as a sort of solid, good agency. We needed to get to that next level. And really, it was about going back to fundamentals of becoming way more creative first and people first. And I'll let Steve take it from there, because I think I set it up as an opportunity that way, but it was a bit of a gamble on your side, and it's working out beautifully. But I mean, your fingerprints are all over it, so I'd love you to say it.
Yeah, same. I mean, when we started chatting, the owners and the leaders at Fuse, that they were already sort of, on this path, at least philosophically, which is to sort of, get above the line, for lack of a better term, and really start to build a more integrated product. Take the process that they were very good at, take some of the executional areas they were already really good at, and just build from there. And while doing that, also, as Stephen, you noted, get a little change in mindset in the agency. And that's what we've been doing over these last, 36 months. From the clients we work with, to the people that we hire, to the way that we work together, all sort of try to achieve, a united sort of goal or vision, if you will. And I think that integrated nature was really important. Not just to sort of tack on some of the above the line, elements, but to do it integrated, and to make sure that we've got, brains and people and talent in all departments, so that we can make sure that, anything we touch is sort of coming at it from the best way possible. And again, with that kind of shared vision of being creative first, and sort of understanding that, great work begets more work. And if you do what you love, the money will follow.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. I think that we're at the same situation where we're trying to figure out what we do best and what we don't do well, and looking at our agency in a very, very different way, and looking at what kind of clients we want to get and what ones we want to attract, and
Yep.
Maybe telling the truth more often than not, because I think a lot of agencies take on clients to think they're going to change their direction, and they don't tell the truth by saying, your product really sucks, eh?
Yeah.
And I'm more going to that direction, whereas before I don't want to tell them that. Like now I want to be more honest and open, and so I think that's really important for you guys too. I mean, you guys are doing such great work. Obviously, you're attracting great clients for the work that you're doing because of the creative you're doing, and you're probably going to create your business that looks a little bit different than it did before COVID. And
Yes.
so you're a work in progress, I kind of figure, right?
Yeah, I mean, you have to, in this side, you have to look at a sort of a 5-year horizon, and you kind of plan for it, and it always deviates a little bit, but it's the core fundamentals. It's be like Steve always says, do great work for great people with great people type thing. Like, let's focus on the fundamentals of what we can control. And what happens in that process is you earn the trust of your good clients. You might, it doesn't fit for everybody, but it really, when you have a good positive energy internally, when you go to see clients, whether it's virtual or in person, it is a magnet, and they start to feel that energy. And so we've done very well on our business development, but we've done best on our organic growth, just because you already have the relationships, you have the trust, but now the product is better. And the team is more excited.
Yeah, and I think it's about there's that old cliche of you're only as good as your client, and it's actually pretty darn true. And so as this agency, and the name Fuse and Stephen and his ownership team, they've been doing this as Fuse for 19 plus years, but Fuse Create is just kind of 2 years old. It is sort of a new agency. It's a new mindset. It's a new approach. It's a new philosophy. It's new work. There's a lot of new. And with that, as we look at our product and as we look at what we're doing, we look at our clients and we want to make sure we're bringing on clients who think of us as a partner, not a vendor. As Stephen said, it's about doing great work with great people for great people. And, so that's a big part of us is fit fit with our agency, fit with our personalities, fit with the way that we do stuff, because, days are too long and life is too short to, work with a-holes, or to, work with people who are going to, treat you like a vendor and not like a partner.
I've always said that your best new client, the best new client is one that you have already.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But
So
I can say, Frank, this change was not easy. It was also not easy to do it during a pandemic, but I'm just so glad it actually gave us so much good focus during a crazy time in this industry. And then you hope it's going to work out, and it is working out beautifully. But anyone, this change is not something, significant change doesn't come without a fair bit of sweat, a few tears.
Well, I know that I've been in this business probably longer than most agency presidents or chairmen in the business, and I've seen a lot of change. But I think that COVID probably reset the bar in many different ways, and many positive. And did the winning of the #3 Small Agency of the Year in 2021 help you in a positive way, and how?
The short answer is absolutely. The long answer is in many ways. I mean, we measure, I actually think the greatest measure of sort of agency success in an individual is pride. Do you feel proud about your work, about your agency, about your coworkers, about your clients? And, that moment of sort of, winning bronze and coming third, was a huge moment for feeling proud and for pride. It also was just a wonderful, affirmation in terms of what we're doing, the approach that we're taking. And it just really spearheaded some huge momentum for the agency, internally and externally.
Yeah, she said that I had 2 degrees, a scholarship, and an internship under my belt, and I still couldn't find a job in advertising. In my mind, being blown off, ignored, and unknown clearly meant I wasn't good enough. Not true, but I couldn't help feeling that way. She got an email from her best friend, Alex, who she said she went to Ontario OCAD with, and she said she remembered the email like it was yesterday, and she said, asking if she wanted to go to France to the Cannes Young Lions competition, and it was also an email that changed the course of her path in your career. So here's a short video I just want to play from that.
It's a lot of pressure, but it's really exciting as well. And I think, we spent the majority of the time doing a lot of research and a lot of brainstorming. A lot of ideas were flying, and it wasn't until the next morning, right before we went in to get started, that we went for coffee and a croissant, and all of a sudden we came up with this new idea, and that's the one that we ended up going with. And so
we were waiting for that moment where we could relax just a little bit. We forgot what we were doing for about 2 seconds, and boom.
Actually, Alex was at one of the seminars this week, and they were talking about creativity and how ideas can't be formed unless you're in a relaxed state. Yeah. And that really was what happened to us.
Very true.
How's she doing, by the way?
She's doing well. Yeah, she's doing very well.
What makes her so special?
Well, I actually hired her back when I was a One Method, and we were looking for an ACD at the time, and I had interviewed 74 people. And Patrice, 74. I remember the number well because Patrice was number 75. And, within 5 minutes, I knew that she was the one, partly because of all the other people I'd met. I had a really good sense of sort of, who was out there and what we were looking for. But at the same time, you see somebody's book ahead of time and you can get a pretty good sense of talent there. But it was really about, those beliefs, the values, the attitude, when it comes to culture. And she was just a fantastic fit. We use the term possibilitarian a lot in terms of how we define our people and our attitude. And she was a possibilitarian through and through. That is for sure. And we keep that lens across really anyone that we bring on, no matter what sort of seniority level or what department, because culture, as noted, is really just so important. culture not being like, hip hop music and brightly colored walls, but just those beliefs and the values that you share, because you go through so many ups and downs, that to do it with like-minded people is just so important.
I think that you said, Steve, that it wasn't, I think you may have covered some of this, but you said that Fuse is a different agency than it was 3 years ago, and your branding was different, the logo was different, but you said your mindset was different and the product was different. Is it changed really? I mean, is their thinking changed 3 years from now, from that period?
I'll let Stephen, respond to that.
Yeah, I've had the fortune of being able to watch, 19 years of this absolutely radically different company. The values, the fundamentals are the same. The spirit is very similar, but there is a definite, a much more focused, clear line of why we exist, why we're here, what it means to work here. And then, Steve's point about, he introduced the word possibilitarian. It really helps you sort of define when you're looking for people, helping put a bit of a lens to find them. So no, I'm incredibly bullish and happy of how we've been able to move through these things, but I can't recognize 2018 to current in all positive.
Do you think that you have a rallying cry that you had on Twitter that said, get noticed, stand up and be unusual? And I think that maybe you need to add that we're more of a caring company. It seems to me that you guys you were caring before, but now it's kind of, you talk about your staff in a very caring way, and they're so important to you. The culture is such a, you talk about, you said that it's taken the buy-in, it's bravery, trust, a belief, and that you have some pretty amazing people that you work with.
That's actually a very insightful insight. Does that even work? To refer to the agency and I think Stephen and the leadership team as caring. We want to have like a family feel here. We want to have people here for a long time. We want people to feel proud. We don't point fingers, we don't blame, we're all in it together, and that notion of caring, I think, is really important. Caring for the agency, but caring for each other, I think, is just so important. And I have seen it throughout my career, both not work, but also work. And every agency is different. Every agency is going to run the way they do. Their culture is going to be different. They may be more competitive, lots of different ways. But, the way that I've seen it work best, both here and in previous places, is that notion of caring and taking the work seriously, but not ourselves, caring for one another and really doing it together.
Well, you're doing a very good job of it. I know that this leads me to a little video I found of you where you talked about being an account executive, and that wasn't for you. So let's watch this little video.
At the time, who's now my wife, got accepted to do her master's at UBC. And so I turned the job down and off I went to UBC, and she did her master's out there. And again, through my father, I owe him a lot. I got a job as an account executive at a package design and branding firm called Creative Group.
Okay.
So I started, it wasn't an ad agency, but it was package design and branding, which I loved. I loved design. And so I started off my sort of career tangentially in package design and branding.
So had you accepted the job at Wolf in Toronto and then the relevation?
No, it literally the same day that
Okay.
I got the offer, she got accepted.
Okay.
Quite literally the same
So
day.
you had to call Frascione and say, you know what, my life circumstances have changed. I'm headed out west.
Yeah, which killed me because, I wanted that job. So that killed me. But then so I worked for an agency called Creative Group.
Yeah, let me ask you this, because that sounds familiar to me. Was Rick Kemp there at Coup?
I know the name Rick Kemp.
Yeah.
I don't remember if he was or not. No.
Yeah. Okay.
But Creative Group. So I was there for about 3 months. After about 3 months, September to December, I had the realization that an account person type role wasn't for me. There were things about it, not to get into it. But it just didn't turn me on,
Right.
for lack of a better phrase. But I stuck it out, and I did my job, and it was good. And like I said, I love design. But then Coup Creative Group got bought by Cossette. And so we moved into the Cossette building on Homer Street.
Okay.
And one night I was leaving, and a creative director within Cossette said, "Hey, Steve, could you maybe think of a line to write on this box that we're sending out to the media to introduce this new brand and new logo for this company? And we want the media to be intrigued to open the box." And I was like, okay, sure, I can.
Let me think back on my business degree.
Yeah, let me look through my economics textbooks and see if I can do that. So I went home that night, and I was up till sort of like 3 a.m., lost track of time. I was sketching and doodling and writing and just trying to think of ways that might be interesting, tying the brand into things. And I came back the next day with 10 lines for the top of the box, and they liked one. And the client ended up liking it. And then they said, "Could you write the inside as well?" Yeah, okay, sure. I can.
I found that quite interesting, especially about Kenny Koo and Jerry Fascioni and Rick Kemp, because I know them all. But a short story, Kenny Koo was doing a lot of our workforce when we were Palmer Jarvis. And And Kenny Koo came to me one day and said, "Would you like to buy our business?" And I said, "Sure, I'd be more than open." I said, "Give me a list of your accounts." And he gave me a list of your accounts. And I said, "How much you want for the business?" And he gave me a number. And I said, "Well, I'll pay you half as much." And he said, "What do you mean you pay me half as much?" I said, "Well, I'm not going to pay for 50% of your business because that's your biggest client is me." Oh, that deal never happened, as you can probably expect. But Kenny Koo was quite successful. He actually ended up moving over to Hong Kong for a number of years, right?
Yes, he did. Yeah, he was. He was a great guy, and he had such an eye and a passion for design.
Yeah.
And he ended up, I think, doing a lot of, I think, multicultural, marketing, if I recall.
He was ahead of the curve. I said, but was that the moment you decided that you didn't want to be an account guy?
Yes. Yeah. That December, I definitely knew that I didn't want to be an account guy. And then, probably a year later, I realized that, the creative side of the table is actually where I want to be. And, being a songwriter and a musician before, I guess there was some creativity there. I just didn't know that I could harness it, for advertising.
I think Stephen's probably glad that you want to play that role because, Stephen plays the role of an account CEO. It seems to me that you love the creative process also. In fact, I have a short video, Stephen, where you talk about that. Let me play that.
In an industry that constantly tries to mirror us in bizarre product information, they've come up with such a simple way of making investing understandable.
Welcome to the CMA Thought Leadership Series on epic wins and epic fails. Today we're focusing in on the financial services industry. So sit back, relax, listen, learn, and later on, we hope you join in the conversation.
I'm Stephen Brown, president of Fuse Marketing Group, and today I want to talk about an epic win, Wealthsimple. I love this brand. I love what they've done in such a short amount of time in our industry, of making a bold statement about making wealth management and investing so simple and so uncomplicated. In an industry that constantly tries to mirror us in bizarre product information and tons of confusing rules and regulations, they've come up with such a simple way of making investing for me, the individual, seamless, easy, and just understandable. Their website, through the whole experience, talks about how it's all about you, the individual, the consumer, and how they break it down into easy segments. And if you think about this, just think about a typical millennial. They're not trusting. These guys, Wealthsimple, have turned the equation around and made it all about you and demystified what the industry loves to sometimes keep a mystery, and that is my money and how I'm going to grow it. I love how this brand has really taken it to a whole nother level, and they've done it in such a crisp, professional way, from the website all the way through the journey. I love Wealthsimple. That is an epic win.
You can see that in doing what I do for a living now, this is not what I do for a living, but I try to get some good background on everybody, and it seems to me that both of you guys could probably switch roles.
Oh, I mean, I think part of the reason we work so well together is I have so much admiration and respect for the creative process to know not to go too far into it and let them do it. But I'd also say the same with Steve is I think I've never said this before, but his background of being an account person means he's always aware of there's a client in the room while we're thinking of these things, and there's a business reality to it. So, he's a bit of a unicorn in the creative space, having both experiences. But
yeah, well, Steve also wrote 10 quotes, which I found interesting, which were words to live by or words to agency by, and there were all 10 good ones, but there was 4 of them that I liked probably that came up with. And one was the creative department might come up with the idea, but it's the agency who champions it is one of them. That was quote number 4. Number 9 was agency people get your clients to love you, which is something that I work on all the time. I coined one that said, I'm in the relationship business, and what I produce is a byproduct of trust. I mean, how important is trust?
Oh, it's everything. With your client, it's everything, because it does allow you to to come to the table with maybe some ideas that they themselves hadn't thought of, or maybe is a little outside of their comfort zone. Not that all the best work is out of comfort zones, but trust is so important when it comes to, again, like the brief, the ideation, the production, the relationship, trusting your agency with maybe more work, or maybe work outside of their wheelhouse that you're willing to sort of give them a try with because you trust them so much. I also think that in the world of sort of the integrated agency model, where many clients have different agencies working for them, when you trust your agency, you might call them first with the next opportunity.
Yeah, I know that you guys, when I was reading through these, I had to go back and sort of look at my notes again. I said, who said that? Which one you said this? I'm going to go, well, you said that. I said, okay, I got to get this correct. And you both talk about the culture as being the lifeblood of the agency. And you talked a bit about how you maintain it. Ken Case, who is the president of DDB Worldwide, when my office was bought, he came into our office and he said, the culture here is on the paint in the walls. He said, I can feel it just walking in the office. And I have a feeling that I could walk into your offices and feel a buzz or a hum. Do you think that most of the clients would feel that? You talk about the importance of your clients, and it's a trust factor and a culture that I could walk into your office and I could say there's something special here.
Yeah, I mean, again, I've had the opportunity to see, I know when trust is not at its best or culture is not at its best, and that's always the intangible. It's hard to feel, but when it's going really well, and it's fortunate that it's going so well right now, it's infectious. And so the clients get it. I mean, you think about it, a client's dealing with so many different spectrums of marketing. And when they come into a room with us, hopefully they're leaving there going, their brain's been a little pushed, but they're excited what they're seeing. And then that doesn't happen overnight. Like, that takes a while to build. But then there's all of a sudden, to what Steve was saying, is like, you start getting the phone calls saying, instead of here's a brief, it's got a problem or having a struggle. Let's get your team together and let's start talking about it. And that's where the trust is at a whole new level. And that's when they just start knowing that you're part of the team. But that is, you can't say it. You can't put it on a wall. It's an energy.
Well, maybe you can put it on the wall. I think that you're talking about maybe a secret sauce, and I think that it's a magic. And a good friend of mine, Roa Osing, who just wrote one of his new books on being different or be dead, and I think the advertising business is living with this now. You better be different or be dead. He talks about the secret sauce, which I've taken this in as one of the things that means something to me. What is your only? What is the only thing that you can do? And the one thing that I'm focusing on right now for me is what is the only thing that I can do here that other agencies can't. And I've come in touch with that. More than glad to sell it to you for a fee. But he says companies hire people and agencies to solve problems. And the better you better show them and prove it to them so that you can solve their problem better than anyone else. And I think that the book gives real insight into making what makes your difference. And I think you guys are explaining to me and to the audience of NABS that this is why you guys are different. Like, you really care about what you do.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. We have sort of two chest thumping mantras, that we sort of try to live up to. One is simply just work that works. And, we figure we're only as good as our last job. And so for us, the work that we do, it has to work.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, it's not just about making clients happy. It's actually making them look like heroes. It's going well beyond. And the other sort of, thing that we sort of try to live up to is to turn heads. And that's sort of our rallying cries, to turn heads, which to your point about being different, what can we do that'll turn the heads, of our client's audience, or possibly of judges or of our competition? And turn heads is that real rallying cry. It's that is what has united everyone in the work, in the way that we buy a new space that becomes our new office. And I think that can help so much for culture, but also for the way that we think about this agency. There's lots of agency clients can work with, and for the most part, some will provide, really great work, but it's also who you work with, how you get the work done, and building those relationships together. And I think that's part of the secret sauce for sure.
Yeah, BBDO has the work, right?
Yep.
And DDB used to have better insights, better results, which I kind of like. And I'm sure you're going to be working on your only statement, or maybe you have it already. But one of the things that you guys, I noticed you're a member of the Worldwide Partners Group, and I believe that Rethink is also a member of that group.
They're in another network, but the same.
Okay, another network. Okay, I'm wrong there. But how has this helped you guys with your company and clients?
It's an amazing group. It's, I think, 75 agencies from 42 different countries, all of us independent. I think the big three zones of where it helps is it's really sometimes hard to learn about the business of the business. I know lots of the other presidents, CEOs of different agencies in Toronto, but I'm not going to phone one of them and tell them a problem I'm having because it's so competitive. But I can talk to someone in Chicago or someone in, Buenos Aires about a staffing issue, stuff like this, like co-learning and all sorts of different sharing that way is one. Second one, clearly for me, is access to a global market. So, whether it's just trying to find insights from other countries, which all the holding companies have at their disposal because they've got agencies in all these markets, that's our option there. So I can reach out to different countries and say, do you have case studies in financial services in Australia, whatever. And then I would say the other one is it is a credentials network. It really helps that as an independent, we're not just an island on our own, that we have access to resources, to a network, and it helps us be more, be a larger entity, even though we're a mid-sized entity.
I actually was a small agency at Vancouver started, and I joined a network called TCAN, right? Which had multiple offices across Canada. Then over time, I became the agency that they were all working against. And I still remain the chairman because they trusted me. But now I'm going to move on to your creative product, which is probably very important to you guys also. And I said that when I interviewed Noel O'Day, he said great advertising is about great storytelling that is emotional and creates sticky memories, and it doesn't come from a content factory. And I guess then you'd probably agree with Noel on that, what he said. And is it harder today to produce great creative? But let me play a little short creative teaser first.
Every new voice counts.
Wake up, people. a first date.
Great reel.
That's not a bad reel. Yeah.
No, it's terrific. I'm going to steal it, put my name on it. Well, it's really a great sample because you really have a variety of interesting clients. But one of the things that necessarily wasn't on the reel, but I wanted to ask you a question about how the Spider-Man campaign came about.
Oh yeah, that was with our client Sony. So we actually, Stephen, why don't you explain a little bit about the media?
Yeah, so as we've evolved, we decided a couple of years ago to start investing heavier in media. We used to always partner, but was struggling to find partners that would be right in the weeds with us. So we built out this media department, and Sony's been with us for quite a while, buy the digital media for them, and it was quiet. But for big releases, the basic idea is get people aware so that they know they can stream it or buy it, whatever they want. But the big shift, so it's all based on what is the movie launch. But we have a strong experiential division also, which is another form of media. And so what we looked at is we knew Spider-Man was going to be huge. So our digital media team really just looked at the takeover of Young Dundas Square in Toronto, which was excellent. And then we amplified it by doing a live experience also. That's the premise of it. And that's our first time at getting them into the experiential with the outdoor digital signage and getting it a big, and right on the heels of the pandemic, great that brands are starting to go back out on the street and connect with consumers again.
I found it very interesting. Also found one that was really interesting to me too, what you did for the Pinball Clements. I'm going to play that video for the folks here.
It's a favorite of ours.
This is it. The moment a young person steps into the real world for the first time. The first time their choices really mean something. The first time their actions can add up to something. If they're lucky, they'll have someone they can turn to help them find their way. But what if they're not lucky? What if they're charting a course without a map? What if they're in over their head? What if they lose their way? Kids in shelters, kids in foster care, and kids who just aren't getting the help they need are trying to figure it out as they go. Bouncing back, but winding up right back where they started. Making some good guesses, but not always knowing where to turn. And too many wrong turns can lead to a good kid getting lost. Losing their way, slipping through the cracks. But we can be there to catch them before they fall. We can give them role models to help them find their way and help them find themselves. Mentors to help them find their passion and their confidence. Training to give them a path and a purpose. Together, we can light the way so they can shoot for the stars.
Great spot.
Yeah, it was a wonderful spot to work on. We worked really closely with Yellow Lab Creative Studio, who did an amazing job, with the animation. The Pinball Clements Foundation, for so long had a very complicated story to tell. And they came to us, with how do we simplify that story and how do we make it get heard? And so we just took sort of a simple idea of a pinball representing, underrepresented youth and the kind of kids that they work with to help them sort of through the system and get into university. And it was a real passion project. And we worked with Tattoo Music as well. And it all came together really, really beautifully.
I actually watched it a few times because I liked it so much. Another one of your clients, which I found interesting, is Ricola.
Yes.
It reminded me in a way that the other spot that kind of reminded me was how do you deal with this on an ongoing basis, like Buckley's, it tastes bad, but it's good, works for you. So let's play that little video here.
Oh, oh no! Here we go!
You've done a very good job of that one too, by showing the emotion of a roller coaster, sort of bringing that all out.
Yeah, that was exactly the idea. Ricola is synonymous with cough drops and helping you with a sore throat from a cough or a cold during the winter season. But COVID meant nobody was getting colds. Nobody had sore throats, and Ricola had always sort of flirted with the idea of sort of finding a purpose outside of those winter months, and so COVID really pushed that agenda, and we found this space of everyday voice, which was curing a sore throat, not due to a cough or cold, but from singing or from screaming or doing a podcast where your voice might get dry or irritated. And so the best way to sort of dramatize that was to really show it in these contextual moments. And it's actually done, the campaign has done really, really well for Ricola here in Canada. Some other regions around the world are looking to pick it up as well. And the screamer happened to be our very own Christina Markham in the office. She had quite a scream and it worked out perfectly.
Did she get ACTRA?
She is great.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about Canadian Tire. I don't know how long you've had that account and what you do for them, but I have to admit that Canadian Tire, whether you came up with the idea or not, but the spokesperson is one of the very few spokespeople that I can actually identify with. He's human. He's corny. He's funny, but I find him believable. But I want to play a couple spots. One that you did for Noma Lights and the other one that you did for We All Play for Canada. So we're going to play those both and then talk about Canadian Tire a little bit.
Helwani Lake Research Station is an extreme place where scientists will come from all over the world. When my father retired in 2011, my husband and I took over running the station. Working here with scientists throughout the year and even over the holidays, the temperatures get down to -30 and we have these north winds that come howling down the lake. For 3 weeks of the year, we don't get the sun here at all. If these Christmas lights can stand up to the winds that we've had and to the cold conditions, they'll stand up anywhere. The lights will definitely be brightening things up.
Hi, I'm Corey Jarvis, and I wrestle for Team Canada at 125 kilograms. We all play for Canada. It means to me that we all come together as a community, family members, coaches, athletes. Everyone comes together and works hard together to get to the goal that we have. I know when Team Canada is down in Brazil and we receive the leaves from Canadian Tire, it's going to put Canada that much closer to Brazil, and we're going to feel that support even more.
Thank you, Canadian Tire!
We all play for Canada!
Both those spots have an emotional feeling to them for me. I don't want to say I'm oversensitive or anything like that, but when I watch those spots, it tells me why Canadian Tire has such a good connection to Canadians and why they're one of the most trusted companies.
Absolutely.
How do you find working with them?
We had an amazing 12-year run with them, a great client, incredible brand, really unique approach to, connecting products with consumers in surprise and delight ways. And the NOMA program, what I loved about that program was that actually came from, NOMA was having problems with the previous year's lights with just pure manufacturing defects. And so their score was down. And so they just said, how do we change this? And the idea started with, let's go to a sub-zero place in Ajax to testing zone. We're like, no. Let's bring the story to a true Canadian spot, which was up in the Yukon. And so we flew a team up there, and that spot, you never know what you're going to completely get. It was on a very tight budget, and everything worked out beautifully. But on top of it, the Northern Lights came out the night we shot it. So you had one of those truly Canadian thank you moments, and everything worked out beautifully. That said, though, we have actually wrapped up working with them about 3 years ago. So they're still good friends and still a good relationship, and we're still a huge fan of their brand.
Yeah, well, it doesn't matter whether the work's present or past. The work is fantastic, and the one for Canada was also very great. It leaves that kind of moment in your heart,
Mm-hmm.
I had some questions here from the audience I want to ask, because it kind of leads on from that last comment about who's your dream client? What do they do that's different? And do you have a dream client, or are all your clients your dream clients?
Yeah, good. That's the right answer, right?
Yeah.
Well, actually, Stephen, you heard something really great down at the conference you were just at when it came to going after clients.
I got I'm not going to remember the name, so give her credit, but the woman who's the CEO of the Martin Agency in the States, she had a really good insight for us, and I think it's really connecting to when we have good experiences. She says, don't look for the top brand, or don't pick the brand, pick the CMO. So find the CMOs out there who are really innovative or looking to take a brand somewhere, who are passionate about relationships with agencies because they know they need that partner, and make that the first choice. Find the CMOs who are going to fall in love with you, and you can fall in love with them, and do something as a duo. The product is the product. And, I know there's some products we all want, but it was a really good, helpful reflection. And what I'd say is, when I look at the best relationships we have, whether it's a VP or a director or a CMO, the best relationships are going back to what you said, Frank, about trust, and that we trust them to want to work and push the product or push the campaign to another level. And that's kind of where, for us, it's about a fit. We do the scale about where. So I don't know if we have, you might, Steve, have a brand that's a dream brand to work on, but for us, it's about finding that connection between, we have our culture and our product fits with their needs and their desires and their wants. And there's a symbiotic relationship where we actually can do some great things together.
I thought you might have said Nike or Apple or something like that.
Well, maybe the musician in me would love to work with Gibson or Martin or Fender, personally, just on a personal level.
Yeah. Have you watched that series on TV about the guitar guy that goes around and Fender?
No, I haven't.
I'll send you a link.
Yeah, please do.
This is from one of the audience says, you've moved, and I don't know where this question came up, but are there any Kenny versus Spenny Easter eggs in your office? What is that all about?
I've got one right here. Yeah, so we moved to Ossington, and let me give Steve and the creative department clear call out on this one. When we knew we were going to start looking about moving offices, they said, let's not go to an office. Let's find a home or a cafe or a fun space, and make it more of a collaborative place where you can. And that was before the pandemic. And then when the pandemic hit, I realized well, we realized we really don't need 14,000 square feet anymore, which is what we had. So Steve, you walked in this building and said, this is the one. So why don't you give the description of where we are now?
Yeah, I mean, you found a few places, but I mean, this was the one, and it's 45 Ossington. So it's right on one of the, hippest, trendiest streets in Toronto. But more than that, we own our building. And so we've got a storefront on the first floor that acts as a pop-up space or a gallery. And then we've got 2 floors above us that is more office space. And it's those 2 floors that used to be owned by Kenny of Kenny versus Spenny, the hit TV show. And so that's where the question comes from, is that it used to be Kenny's Airbnb, and we haven't found anything just yet.
No.
All right. Well, the last question from the audience, is there any specific courses that every aspiring ad person should take in school? Is there anything that you guys would suggest?
I have suggestions. I would definitely suggest the course, that I teach. I would be doing a disservice to the Miami High School if I didn't suggest that. But I actually found that, yes, I have this commerce degree, but as a creative person, having a little marketing background was actually a really useful tool. Getting a little bit of strategy, a little bit of consumer behavior, a little bit of media. It was actually a really great tool as I was sort of moving up through the ranks of creative, getting closer to clients and getting closer to understanding their business. So, on the creative side, I would actually encourage people to do a little marketing course. And then presentation skills, I think, are always a huge asset for anyone in advertising. So any way that you can, find outside courses or internal, sources to improve presentation skills, I think is key.
And I would add one on there, which is my grade 10 drama and then being in plays all through high school. I got to tell you, if you're comfortable standing up and telling a story and not like you have to, this is a creative business, this is a people business to get out there. And so I know people who are a bit more shy or timid and they've taken the improv classes with Second City and stuff like that. It's getting comfortable with being on the spot, getting comfortable with the flow. I would always recommend that to anyone in this space. Just it helps brings the passion of our work to life.
Yeah. Well, I found our conversation very passionate today. I thank you both. I also thank you on behalf of NABS. Thank you for your kind generation. And this will be the first time, like Entertainment Tonight, that I want to play a little music as we leave.
Oh, no.
Play that music for me, please. And again, thank you on behalf of NABS.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Frank. Oh my God. Of all the things to play.
Stay in touch. Are you?
No, that's my twin brother.
The moon rises, hands flee, it brings the curtain down.
And that's me singing and me playing lead guitar in the song. And we're at Lee's Palace here in Toronto.
crystal blue and the river still wide. Blown in the honest vision, I've seen dance and dance again. Sleep quiet as darkness spirit, sheltered ground. I'll always witness you in all that's around. To say goodnight, but I remember you. See through a sigh. Thank you.